Hello! I'm so excited. My number one word is I'm thrilled, I'm delighted, and I'm excited because we have a very special person who has joined us today, and I cannot wait for her to introduce herself to the platform, SuperWomenCan Podcast. We have JoJo from Creative Sass, and she is an amazing ally for women of color to show up as their true authentic self. I can't wait for your full introduction. Before I do that though, as always, I just want to remind you that the SuperWomenCan Podcast is all about elevating women of color to the highest possible point that they can. We know that women of color are spinning lots of plates, raising families, climbing the career ladder, smashing past concrete ceilings, not glass ceilings, and they are trying to always set themselves apart. Now, what we're doing on SuperWomenCan is we're bringing successful, powerful, wonderful women of color and allies so that they can really show how you can show up and be your authentic self and move past all those narratives that say you can't, because guess what? Superwomen can. Now, please introduce yourself. And please ignore my hair. My hair's just doing its own thing today. Come on, stay down.
Are you ready for me now, Sam?
I am.
Okay, I really feel like we need to caveat this episode with you may want to turn your volume slightly down because this will get excitable and quite possibly extremely loud. However, that comes with the whole caveat of sassy, not sorry.
Amazing. Oh, I love your strapline. Sassy, not sorry. I love it. Definitely.
So for who I am, Sam, and we met, oh, crikey, I don't know how many months ago. However, I feel like I've known you a lifetime because we are definitely, as I term, soul sasters. Now, SASter stands for, I need to explain that. We've already spoke a little bit about sassy, not sorry, but I am the belief, brand and business development fairy godmother. Let me get a swish. Now, the reason I say swish is because it is a very swish statement. However, the self-belief is really real. It wasn't always that way, and it's taken a lot of work to get there. And it's that work that I want to encourage, empower all the SASters out there that they too can be sassy, not sorry. Which sassy in my world, there's two kinds of sass in my world, Sam. There's sassy, which stands for lively, bold, full of spirit and a little bit cheeky. And then there's sass, which stands for self-awareness strategy. And that has really become the purpose of my work, really, with those that I work with. So yeah, I am very happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, I want us to start with telling us a bit more about your background, because I know that you've dealt with so much, and I feel like it really showcases that everyone has lots of differences and how you can show up as your true authentic self and what helped you to create your business, really.
So Sam, where do we start? So literally this week I have turned 9 and 40 years old, as I like to call it. So I am heading up there for those of an age that feel like maybe they can't do anything new or fabulous, where absolutely you can. Age is but a number. It's a mindset that helps you get to where you want to go. But if we go back, I am a successor of the care system. So from 18 months to 18 years old, I was in care and experienced all three kind of aspects of care: foster care, back with my birth mum, and then a children's home as well, and then back into foster care. Spoiler alert, there's a happy ending because I am a successor of the care system, but that's due to quite a few factors. But the end result of me starting my business and being a successor is definitely down to mindset and really knowing that I can rather than I can't, and not taking no for an answer, and fighting the corner that you need to be in order to be successful in your own right.
That's amazing. So thank you for sharing that. First of all, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. And you definitely do not look 49. I actually thought you were my age and I'm 39. So
I will take that, Sam.
hey, take that, please do. So you were saying that you were in the care system, and I think it's quite important because we may have listeners who have been in the care system themselves and can really resonate with that. Can you tell me a bit more about what it was like and how that kind of helped you build resilience in what you're doing?
100%. And it's quite apt. I don't know when this podcast goes out, but it's currently foster care fortnight at the moment. So it's something that is quite close to my heart, to be honest with you, to talk about the foster care system and the care system in general. And so for me, my mum had MS, so that's why she couldn't care for me. I never knew my dad. So at 18 months old, I went into foster care with, you'll hear me talk about them as my mum and dad, so it can get a little bit confusing. Went to live with mum and dad, foster care. It was an unwritten adoption because MS, back in the day, people didn't know that MS fluctuated. So therefore, my mum was classed as disabled, and also her limitations were quite high. So that's why I went into care. But because my mum had already had a daughter 10 years previous, she didn't want me to be adopted. So therefore, didn't want to sign adoption papers. So mine was an unwritten adoption, foster care, but unwritten adoption, if you like. I was going to be there permanent. However, with MS, now we know it does fluctuate. I was with mum and dad till I was 6 years old, and then mum got well again, and the system and everybody decided it was my rightful place to go back to my real mum. When I say real mum, I don't mean plastic, biological. Right? She was, I don't mean out of plastic, but she was my biological mum. So I went back to live with her and basically became really her carer at the age of 6. Now, imagine being taken out of a stable home life. I had aunts, uncles, we had a big family, and there was aunts, uncles, nans, granddads, cousins, umpteen cousins, too many to count, that I was accepted into that family. So when I went, that was a huge shift for that whole family, not just for me. Looking back at that now, I can really appreciate that. And I went back to live with mum, and obviously the contact stopped then with my foster carers, my foster mum and dad, because it would have confused me at the age of 6. Mum and dad, being the great people that they are, really led me up for an adventure to go back with mum and dad, with my mum, because though my best interests were at heart, but mum's limitations were still very high. So at the age of 6, to give you just some kind of example, I was, for anybody that knows Birmingham and the famous Spaghetti Junction, that's where I lived, round by Spaghetti Junction, and I was walking to school at the age of 6 on my own, round by Spaghetti Junction. That gives you an indication of the care that where I was at. And I was with my mum for a year, and then mum got ill again because the fluctuation of MS.
Yeah.
And her disability became paralysed from the waist down literally overnight. And one night I had to call an ambulance. The ambulance came and there was nowhere for me to go. So the ambulance men were like, where is there anywhere you can go? That just wouldn't happen now. We'd like to think it wouldn't happen now. And I went to stay with a parent that had once invited me for tea on the playground. When I was in school, I was a kid that had been in care, that was with a single parent, and didn't really make that many friends, which I know, Sam, now, the kind of person that I am, friendship is very important to me. So anyway, I went to stay with her, and then the next day, the kids from the estate came round and they were like, you're going in a children's home. And I think parents had taught, the kids had heard, and I heard it from them before I heard it from anybody else. And then literally that next night, I was in a children's home and I was there for a year. So at the age of 7, and then again, spoiler alert, happy ending, purely by accident, mum and dad found out I was back in care, my foster mum and dad, and I went back to be with them. Now, we've skipped through 2 years quite quickly there, but those 2 years were really informative and really shaped me. But the years previous to that as well gave me a bit of a secure foundation, if you like. And I think that's why I'm such an advocate for the care system, because for foster carers, giving a child just that ounce of stability, to give them just something, that some reserves, then that whole situation built resilience, resourcefulness, and rapid adaption, Sam, because and now where I am in my business and I help business builders, they're 3 skills that you need as an entrepreneur: rapid adaption, resourcefulness, and resilience, because it's flipping hard.
It is. And there's going to be listeners that are going to resonate from my point of view. And I resonate with you a lot because I wasn't in the care system, but I lived quite close to a children's home. And I used to be the one that used to find these children walking around and go, come to my house for dinner. And I used to feed these kids kind of like this. A lot of them just didn't look like they had like ample food. And I just felt like I needed to feed them, even though it was my mum actually feeding them. She'd go, you found another one. Okay, bring them in.
But do you know what that would have been though, Sam? That would have been the family element that was priceless there. It would have been the family, like the welcoming and the belonging, because the belonging aspect of being in care is something that only since I've gone on to do the work, self-awareness and stuff like that, that I've realised that I went through life just needing to belong somewhere, because you just don't feel like you do. And that's probably been one of the biggest lessons.
Wow. I'm going to get very emotional here. And to add on to that, I didn't know that when I was going to end up growing up at 17 years old, and this might be something I've not shared with you before, is that I don't have 6 children. I actually have 7. And my 7th child is actually my nephew, who I became the legal carer of when he was 2 years old. So he was put into care for just short of a year. I had to go through court to fight for him. And he's my brother's son. And yeah, it was not a nice situation. He needed to just be out. And
that's called a kinship, isn't it? That's called a kinship.
He needed to be with us. And I was 17 years old. I was like, I don't have a clue about, but I'm going to take. It was like our first child in my like immediate family. We're a massive family, but in my immediate, it was like our first, like outside, like first child. That was our firstborn. And it was like, no way that the system's taking him. So my mum, because she wasn't very well at all. She couldn't have the status on her own. So I had to go and say I was going to be there to look after him. And actually we were like a team, me, my brother, my twin brother, and my mum, making sure he had absolutely everything. He's so loved. He's 21, just had a baby as well as me. I'm a grand aunt officially, and he makes me so proud. I can completely resonate. And in the Black community, there's a lot going on in terms of care homes and being carers. Like you just said, you had to care for your mum. That's not unusual in the Black and ethnic minority community, in the communities that I am in, marginalized. And I'm saying these words because this is a bit of an education piece for anyone who's watching, not just anyone who's watching, allies and etc., that we're trying to make sure we change the words as well, moving away from marginalized and minority to global minority, and actually specifying individual, Black, Asian, Indian, or wherever they're from, but making it very specific.
Sam, you know this is important to me, and you educate me in a way that makes me feel like I can approach you, and it's learning to do better, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think we're all getting there. And the thing is, with words, they change all the time. But what we've got to make sure we're doing is that we don't group people into boxes. But what I'm saying, the point is that sometimes I have to use those words so that I can then unpick it again to tell you the words that I use. What do you mean? So the point is that our communities, we generally have lots of caring responsibilities. That is a fact. Someone telling me in our communities that you're caring for an elderly person, someone who's got mental challenges, that's our day to day. Like literally, it's our day to day. We do it all the time. You were 6 years old. I just can't. I don't even know what I was doing at 6 years old, but I know I was from a disadvantaged background, but I know that I was still having fun and there was lots of love. You were taking on a full responsibility at 6 years old. That must have been tough.
Do you know what it's done for me, Sam? It's so being, as I call myself, the fairy godmother of belief, brand and business development. That's because I believe in potential and purpose. And I think you can absolutely, the word foster stands for encouragement. That's the definition of the word foster. And for me, that is really interesting, because I literally am, I couldn't be more encouraging for whoever I meet, because I'm like, come on, we can do this. You've got potential. What's your purpose? Let's figure it out. But when I go, the reason I do go off on a tangent sometimes, Sam, so you have to kind of say to me, come by to bring me back. But the point of that was the whole fairy godmother speak. And when I look back at that, being age 6, knowing that I coped with that at age 6, I say my past scary pumpkins are the power behind my pure potential. Because if ever there is something that comes in my path and I'm like, I can't do that. Nah, not for me. I go back to age 6 and I'm like, hold on a minute. What did you do at age 6? And that is the power source. And we all have something like that in our history. We all have something that we can use to give us the power of our pure potential. Because when you know you have come through something like that, when you know you have come past something like that, that's what you can use as your resource to go back to. And I'm so passionate about that.
Wow, that's powerful. And again, going back to being a Black woman and those who are listening, one of the things is that we have so many of those stories.
You have a catalogue, and not just personally, but historically. And there is so much there to know that you can have that in your, it's just there, Sam, isn't it, for you, to be fair?
Yeah, I love that, because I'm just thinking of all the amazing people that went before us, and they created where we are today. And it isn't still the best, but we are getting there, and we can use their examples on our own to fuel us. And that's basically what you've said. We can use it. Now, I know your business. I want to talk about your business now in more detail, because you've told me your story, which is inspiring. And it is absolutely inspiring. And I think if we continue to talk about it, I'm going to be like crying by the end of this. And your business just shows up. I love the fairy godmother. Like, you look like a fairy godmother. Like, I can see the sparkle coming out of your eyes and everywhere. But tell me how you show up for women in general, women of color as well, especially. But how do you show up?
So for me, Sam, it's always been, I come from, as well, my foster parents were, my dad was, and I'm sorry if religion isn't there for some people, but it was part of my upbringing with my foster family. So my dad was a pastor of a Pentecostal church. And so for me, I've always been in an environment where it was, nobody got left behind. Everybody was welcome. And to be around such a diverse upbringing, for me, that was, what can I say? It was educational. And in some aspects, I do feel quite privileged in that, because it allowed me to see the differences and be aware of the differences. And I'm not on about some of the positive differences. I'm on about the exposure of non-inclusion, which for me was always, hold on a minute, no, that is just not good enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's something that I'm very, so the whole aspect behind a fairy godmother is intention. Yep. So the word wish for me stands for, with intention, success happens. WISH. With intention, success happens. Now, intentionally, it is, for me, hugely important to go out of my way to ensure that nobody does get left behind, and that anybody that is not getting the same opportunity, and that this comes from as well myself being in care, because there were opportunities that I was given that if I hadn't have been given those, I wouldn't have been in the situation that I'm in. So it's a case of ensuring that opportunity is there. And it's intentionally going out of my way to be an ally. Don't always get it right, Sam. I don't always get my words right. And sometimes I'm a bit conscious about that. However, I go out of my way to find the superheroes that I can have an allyship with. And in order to, I once saw a speaker, it was at Ideas Fest, and I can't remember her name, which I'm going to kick myself, but I'm a bit perimenopausal at the moment, so remembering my own name is a bit hard, right? So remember her saying that it wasn't about always being a warrior, but it was about being an ally. And when something's wrong, being there and saying, hold on a minute, I think you need some more education on that. I may not necessarily be the person to educate you, but I can point you in the right direction of somebody that can. And that for me has been really big. And within the business, it's about seeking out opportunities that I can be an ally in to create wider doors and just doors in general to be opened. I don't know if that's answered your question, because I can go off on a bit of a tangent.
I'm going to say, when we first physically met, because I know that we've known each other online, you can't miss you because you're like floaty pink, everything's pink and sparkly, and you just can't miss your branding is out there. One thing that I noticed when we met first time I met was that Be Inspired, being invited to Be Inspired, and I didn't know anyone there at all. I think one or two people who I wasn't sure was going to be there or not, but I didn't know anyone. But I instantly gravitate. I was like, you're the lady that I see on Instagram and Facebook, and you just like light up, and you were just pink all over, and I just said, it's you, isn't it? And you're like, I've seen you, Sam, before. And I have never felt so welcomed. You brought me to she had a private table, by the way, ladies. She had a private table, and I could sit anywhere, and I was just like, I don't know anyone. But you brought me to your table, and on your table, I am actually going to start to cry here because this is the truth. On your table was such an inclusive table, and I think you don't give yourself the merit it's due, because on that table, the individuals that I sat with, there was 2 or 3 physically disabled women. This is your table. This is your private table. I've never felt like I could comfortably talk about my hidden disability as someone who's got dyslexia. There was about 4 people on your table who was openly talking about neurodiversity. And I was like, hold up, this has never happened before. And I was like, yeah, me too. It was like, we were all like sweeties, like, yeah, me too. And there was a handful there was lots of diversity in Be Inspired, but there was a handful of Black women. They knew you. They gravitated towards you. You made them feel welcome, felt included. I felt welcome. I had never physically met you up until that point. We may have not even more or less exchanged a couple of words up to that point, and you made me feel included, and that was inclusion. I felt like I belonged. And especially on your table, you already gravitate differences to you by nature. That is your nature. So you don't give yourself the merit you deserve. And that is the truth. I felt like I was a part of the team. I felt like an honorary SASter. I really did. And it didn't help the fact that I also was wearing pink. So, all the team, everyone on the table was wearing pink. I felt like I truly belonged into your world. And it was amazing. And it's very rare. So
I think you've just hit the nail on the head there, Sam. If we go back to the conversation that we had at the beginning, belonging,
absolutely.
It's about belonging, and everybody has a right to belong.
Absolutely.
And I get really, am I allowed to swear, Sam?
No.
Or not? Okay. I'll put it in my own terms. I go a darker shade of pink. I get pinked off when anybody that somebody else does not belong. That is my passion. That's my passion point, and it's not acceptable. It's just not acceptable.
But many people know it's the right thing to do, but not many people create the space to do the right thing, which is what you do. And you don't give yourself enough merit. You've been dancing around it. I'm like, no, let's just bring it out there. Now, there's other things that you've got in the pipeline. You can't really reveal everything. This is one to watch, put it that way. Tell us a little bit, a sneak preview into anything that you can share with us.
So there's a little bit of a mission because brand, so belief, brand and business development, they're three separate layers to what I call having your cake and eat it lifestyle, right? And the base layer of that is belief. Doesn't matter how far in business you are, doesn't matter how big, how early, the biggest part of the journey is belief. And so I work with people with belief, but then we head into the next layer of business, which is brand. Brand is hugely important for me because I stepped out as I thought I should at the very beginning rather than how I could. Realise the power of truly being me and how authentic, and how once you actually step into it, how much easier and how much more freedom it gives you, because you magnetize the people that are right for you in life and you repel the people that are not. When you are absolutely wholeheartedly authentically you. Brand is the next part, but it's not easy to get to that point. So you work on the belief, that gives you the SASs, the self-awareness strategy, to actually step in to what I call a kick SASs brand, which is absolutely you wholeheartedly, which then is the only time, once you are truly being you, is when your business will develop. Now, a lot of people come to me for the top layer of the cake, which is business development, but we need the other two layers in order for the top layer to work. So something that I'm chatting about and was how could we make that more inclusive and more accessible and do some work with that. So let's just say we are putting all the wishes out there with intention, success happens. We are being super intentional to create that and create opportunities for anybody that isn't getting those. And whether that be disability, whether that be women of colour, whether that be through ADHD or some different, another like unseen disability, it's how can we make that happen? We can make that happen by looking into funding, grants, and just taking a little bit of extra time and attention and investigation to see how we can make that happen. So we are currently doing a little bit of work on that to really get some kick-ass brands and belief for some super women that can but aren't getting the opportunity.
How exciting. I am really, so you need to keep your eyes peeled because I am pretty sure that you're going to keep showing up. And if you have not seen any of the websites, and everything is pink, like everything is pink. Actually, that's actually a good question. Why is everything pink? That is your brand, but why? Tell us why. There must be, everything has a reason with you, so I want to hear the reason.
So when I started in business, so my business started, I actually used to think that I wasn't qualified enough to have a business. I had got a real dulcet brummy tone. I was a curvy girl. I didn't have the education levels or qualifications that I thought I should have. And so when I stepped out, when I finally did, the little nudge that I got was my integrity was compromised. It was compromised once. That was okay. That was maybe just by chance. It was compromised twice. When it was compromised twice, it was like, no, this is not right. And it was about how other people were being treated. So I had a choice. The only way I was going to make a difference was if I started my own business and I became a leader. And that was scary because I didn't feel like I was qualified and everything else. Anyway, got over the belief. As we know, that's where I stand on that. And I devised my brand how I thought it should be. And all I can say is it looked like a businessman Jeff kind of brand, because I thought that's what I needed to be in order for people to take me seriously. How wrong could I be? I had this pointed out by the fabulous Danny Wallace, who I know is a mutual friend of both of ours. And when I put the business card, my whole £30 that I'd invested in Vista business cards, because I thought that's what investment was at that point. And I'd taken me weeks to invest in these business cards and the brand that I'd done with a friend. I put it in front of her and I put, here, this is what I've got, but it's not really me. And as I said that, she stopped me and she went, let me stop you there for a minute. She said, I've known you for 5 minutes. You're pink, you're sparkly, you're leopard print, you're glittery. What is this? And what made you successful in your previous career? And it was that question that made me go, hold on a minute. It was my personality. 20 years in business development in the corporate space. And the one thing that always got me through the door, that always created the relationships, was my personality. It was genuine. Yeah. And I was like, it's my personality. And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Why am I showing up as I think I should rather than how I could? it's your personality. And I was like, that's it. And I've always been a go hard or go home kind of girl. And it was, okay, who am I? And I am a pink sparkly person. And from the moment I stepped into that, and I was also being, one of the things about being not belonging, Sam, is I toned down who I really was to about 75% for many years. I dulled down my sparkle because people would say to me I was too positive, I was too loud, I was too much, hence the tutus, because now I embrace the tutu, right? Because nobody is ever going to tell me I am too much in any kind of form. And I love a tutu. When you wear a tutu, you feel like you can swish and sway and you feel fabulous. So I embrace it now, hence where the fairy godmother came from as well. But so where that whole brand came from, it was either be myself or I'm never going to belong otherwise, because I'm going to be trying to be somebody else. And it's just not a recipe for success. Your recipe for success is to absolutely be wholeheartedly you and be unapologetic. Hence the reason, sassy, not sorry.
I love it. I have absolutely loved every single piece of the cake that you have delivered, and it's been tantalizing. I tell you, I'm so glad that you've come onto this podcast to show us how we can show up and have belief. I love belief. Belief is important. How can we continue to find you and follow you? Where are you?
Okay, it would be absolutely scandalous of me not to give a shameless plug of my book, which is Loving Yourself Beyond Belief.
Have you got a copy? Show us. Where is it?
Have I got a copy? Have I got a copy in front of me? Hold on. Yes, I have. So,
yeah. Oh my God. Everyone's got to get this book right now.
Let me tell you
Amazon.
something about this, Sam.
It's amazing.
Kisses as full stops. He's shocking at grammar. Never thought she could write a book. This happened. So believe in yourself, because you absolutely can do anything with intention. Success happens. So this is a sassy, not sorry, self-awareness strategy for more self-love and more self-belief. The reason I wrote that was because it's not always, I try to be as accessible as I can to work with, but I felt I needed something that gave everybody a roadmap of what I had done and some home play in there, because we don't do homework in Sassville. So the book you can find on Amazon, JoJo Smith, Loving Yourself Beyond Belief. And otherwise, you can follow me on the socials, which is Creative Sass, Creativ, no E on the end of creative, a sass, because there's no E on the end of Joe. And I always used to get an E put on the end of Joe. And I was like, I am who I am. I am not a Joe with an E. So Creative Sass on all the socials, Creative Sass, the website. And it stands for Creative Self-Awareness Strategy, because when you are creative within your self-awareness, it becomes more personal to you. And that is making things personal, making things bespoke to you is what's going to move you forward, is my true belief.
And I have to say that you're very modest. Your book is a bestseller. You're a best-selling author.
Okay, I am going to say I did knock some people off the top spot. So
was it one of my favorite people? Who is that? Can you remind me?
One of my favorite people, Jay Shetty.
You're so modest. You really are. She's a best-selling author, and she just downplays who you are, but you have downplayed that big time. Please go and get the book. Please go and follow on all the socials. And thank you so much for taking the time. There's big things in store for you. And I just cannot wait, because those who are listening, they get the true glimpse of who you are right now. It's exciting.
Sam, I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And just to remind you, to look out for podcasts, SuperWomenCan. Again, you'll keep seeing me on the next episode. Continue to follow, continue to like, and continue to share.